She insight here introduction, the urge that ruins everything. Right after a breakup, something strange happens inside you. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts race. Every instinct in your body screams the same command: reach out. Fix this. Explain yourself. Get clarity. It feels logical. It feels mature. It even feels loving. You tell yourself, if I just explain things clearly enough, she'll understand. She'll see the truth. She'll remember what we had. And yet, that very urge, the one that feels so reasonable, is the single fastest way you permanently lose a woman you still want. If you've ever wondered why doing everything right after a breakup still makes her colder, more distant, more resolved to leave, then this is going to hit home. Because what feels like repair is often self-sabotage. Welcome. In this breakdown, I'm going to walk you through the 90 days rule that brings your power back. But before we get to the rule itself, you need to understand why immediate action backfires. What is actually happening in her mind during this window, and how men unknowingly destroy attraction by trying to be reasonable. This isn't about tricks. It's about leverage, psychology, and self-respect. You want to be schooled? You're in the right place. Because doing this wrong costs you everything. Logic versus attraction, where men lose the game. After a breakup, most men go into what I call repair mode. They replay every conversation. They identify mistakes. They construct better explanations in their head. They convince themselves that if they can just articulate things clearly enough, she'll soften. Here's the painful truth. Attraction does not respond to explanation when emotion has already tipped. Let that sink in. Attraction is emotional before it's logical. It is felt before it is reasoned. When a woman is attracted, she justifies you. When attraction begins to drop, she rationalizes why it should drop. That's the shift. And once that shift happens, logic becomes fuel for her exit, not a bridge back to you. When a woman ends a relationship, she is rarely confused. Even if she says, I just need space, or I don't know what I want, emotionally, she has already moved. She has rehearsed the breakup in her mind. She has prepared herself. She has resolved something internally. But you haven't. So when you rush in with texts, calls, apologies, long emotional messages, you think you are being mature. What she feels instead is confirmation. Confirmation that she made the right choice. Confirmation that you are reactive, anxious, still orbiting her. And attraction does not grow in that energy. It collapses. The fatal reaction, repair mode. Here's the pattern I see over and over again. A man believes silence means losing ground. So he fills the space. He checks in just to see how she's doing. He sends a thoughtful message. He offers friendship. He asks for closure. Every move feels harmless, innocent, even noble. But they all communicate the same thing. I have not accepted this. I still need something from you. And that's the problem. When you seek closure from the person who closed the door, you position yourself beneath their decision. You ask for emotional permission to move on. That dynamic suffocates attraction. Because attraction requires polarity. It requires space. It requires tension. When you rush to erase that tension, you remove the mystery. You remove the uncertainty. You remove the very space where desire could have regrown. Instead of missing you, she feels relief. Instead of wondering about you, she feels validated. If you argue, she feels justified. If you beg, she feels superior. If you chase, she feels confirmed. And the emotional narrative she built to justify leaving you gets reinforced every single time you reach out. You think you're fighting for the relationship. But you're actually strengthening her exit. The emotional resolution you refuse to see. This is the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. When she ends it, she has already processed the breakup internally. You are reacting in real time. She processed it in advance. So when you send that long message explaining everything clearly, she doesn't see growth. She sees desperation. When you ask, can we at least talk about it? She doesn't feel warmth. She feels pressure. When you offer friendship, she doesn't feel maturity. She feels that you're still attached and trying to negotiate your way back in. And here's where it becomes dangerous. The more you try to prove your worth, the more you lower your perceived value. Because high-value energy does not beg to be chosen. It chooses itself. But in repair mode, you forget that. You become reactive instead of grounded. You seek reassurance instead of holding standards. You chase clarity instead of embodying stability. And slowly, without realizing it, you confirm the image she created: weak, needy, dependent. Even if that image isn't true, your reaction makes it look true. That's the collapse. The birth of the 90-day rule. This is where the 90-day rule enters. The concept is simple. The execution is brutal. For 90 days after a breakup, you do not initiate contact. You don't chase explanations. You don't try to be friends. You don't negotiate your way back into her life. You don't check in to see how she's doing. You step out of the emotional frame entirely. And you let the separation fully exist. Not as a tactic. Not as manipulation. But as a reset of emotional polarity and personal authority. Most men misunderstand no contact. They treat it like a trick. They go silent for a week, secretly hoping she panics. When she doesn't, they break. Because their silence was never about self-respect. It was about control. The power of 90 days is not silence alone. It's what that silence represents. It says, without a single word, I respect myself enough to walk away when I am not chosen. And that message lands louder than any speech you could ever give. Silence becomes dignity. Distance becomes strength. Restraint becomes power. But in the beginning, it feels like losing. It feels like surrender. It feels like you're letting her slip away. That's the internal conflict. Your instincts tell you to act. Your ego tells you to fix it. Your fear tells you that silence equals death. But sometimes silence is the only thing that stops the bleeding. And this is just the beginning. The shift, power, psychology, and what happens when you disappear. Now the real tension begins. Because once you go silent, truly silent, something unusual happens. Not just in her. In you. But first, let's step into her mind. What happens in her mind when you vanish? When you disappear cleanly after a breakup, no drama, no emotional speeches, no passive-aggressive posts, you interrupt the emotional narrative she built to justify leaving. That narrative needs reinforcement. If you chase, she feels relief. If you argue, she feels justified. If you beg, she feels superior. Each reaction strengthens her certainty. But if you go quiet, she is left alone with her decision. And that is where doubt can enter. Because now, she doesn't get emotional proof that she made the right choice. There is no desperate text. No late-night confession. No, I can't live without you. Just space. And space is uncomfortable. She begins to notice the absence of your attention. The absence of your validation. The absence of your emotional availability. At first, she may feel empowered. Then curious. Then unsettled. Because you are no longer participating in the old dynamic. You are no longer the man trying to be chosen. You are the man who quietly chose himself. That shift is subtle, but powerful. She starts remembering how you made her feel without the pressure of you asking for anything. She replays moments differently. The emotional charge softens. The sharp edges of the breakup blur. And the story she told herself, that you were weak, needy, dependent, begins to wobble. Even if she never reaches out, the internal shift still happens. You become a question mark instead of a closed chapter. And mystery has weight. Why 90 days, not 30? Now let's talk about time. 30 days feels disciplined. It feels strong. But emotionally, it's barely enough for withdrawal to pass. Because that's what a breakup is. Withdrawal. You were used to her presence. Her messages. Her validation. Her routine. And she was used to yours. 90 days allows emotional equilibrium to reset. It allows identity to stabilize. It allows perspective to return. By the end of 90 days, one of two things will happen. Either she reaches out from curiosity, nostalgia, or genuine reconsideration. Or you realize something unexpected. You no longer want the same woman you were emotionally attached to in the chaos of the breakup. And both outcomes are a win. Because the goal is not to get her back at all costs. The goal is to get yourself back. When you regain emotional control, obsession begins to dissolve. Clarity replaces urgency. You stop negotiating attraction. You start setting standards again. And standards change everything. The clean-up structure, silence with growth. But here's the part most men miss. Silence without growth is just avoidance. You can disappear for 90 days and still be stuck. Still replaying memories. Still stalking her social media. Still emotionally frozen in time. That's not power. That's hiding. The 90-day rule only works when paired with visible internal change. This is your rebuild window. You train your body. You clean up your routines. You sharpen your social life. You build discipline where there was chaos. You stop talking about her like she was the prize you lost. You start acting like the man refining his life. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many men don't actually miss the woman. They miss the validation she gave them. They miss the identity they had inside the relationship. They miss the routine. When you fill your life back up with purpose, that attachment loosens. And ironically, that is when attraction has the highest chance of returning. Because you are no longer trying to extract it. You are no longer leaning forward emotionally. You are centered, grounded, steady. That steadiness changes your energy. And energy is felt before words are spoken. When she reaches out, the real test. This is where discipline matters most. If she reaches out casually, "Hey stranger. I've been thinking about you." Your tone matters more than your words. You respond calmly, briefly, without reopening wounds. "Hey, good to hear from you. What's new?" You are signaling stability. You are not frozen in time waiting for her. If she says, "I've had time to think. I might have overreacted." Do not rush to soothe her. Do not jump to fix everything instantly. Respond grounded. "I appreciate you saying that. I've done some thinking too." That sentence carries weight. You're not accepting blame. You're not rejecting her either. You're communicating evolution. If she says, "I miss us," don't immediately reply, "I miss you too." Instead say, "I enjoyed what we had. But if we ever revisit it, it has to be different." Now the frame has shifted. You are not trying to get back what was. You are setting conditions for what could be. And that is power. Because when a woman comes back after distance, she is testing the new version of you. She is looking for emotional growth. If you revert to old patterns, overexcited, overly available, overinvested, she may withdraw again. And here's the hard truth. Sometimes she comes back not because she wants you, but because she's lonely, bored, or another option failed. So you must assess. If she walked away once, what has tangibly changed? Has she taken accountability? Acknowledged her role? Shifted her behavior? Or is she simply nostalgic? If nothing has changed, nothing will change. Your power is not in crafting the perfect sentence. It is in your restraint, your standards, your emotional steadiness. If she never reaches out, this part hurts. But it is not failure. It is information. It tells you the relationship reached its natural end. And you avoided months, even years, of emotional self-betrayal trying to revive something already over. Silence protected your dignity. It preserved your self-respect. And sometimes the greatest power move is accepting what is. Closing insight, the man who chose himself. If she comes back after 90 days, do not treat it like a victory lap. Do not over-celebrate. Do not punish her by acting cold. Both destroy leverage. Stay centered. Her reaching out does not mean she wants a relationship. It means space created contrast. It means emotional distance did what explanation never could. But whether she returns or not, the deeper transformation is this. You stopped chasing. You stopped negotiating attraction. You stopped begging to be chosen. You became the man who chose himself. And when a man truly does that, quietly, consistently, without performance, his presence changes. His standards rise. His energy shifts. And whether it's her, or someone new, he is no longer operating from fear of loss. He is operating from clarity. Let that sink in. That is the 90-day rule. Not a tactic. Not a trick. A reset of power. And power, when held with discipline, changes everything. Please don't forget to subscribe and like. See you're on our next video.